In 2005, the most powerful chip maker on Earth was offered a deal. Build a processor for a phone that didn't exist yet. The CEO said no. That phone became the iPhone. And the decision he made in that room would, in his own words years later, haunt him. My gut told me to say yes, he admitted. He didn't. And Intel never recovered its place in the future of computing. To understand how big this miss was, you have to understand what Intel was in 2005. This was the company that built the brain of almost every computer on the planet. Intel Inside wasn't a slogan, it was a tax on the entire industry. Windows ran on Intel, servers ran on Intel. The phrase in Silicon Valley was simple: nobody ever got fired for buying Intel. Paul Otellini took over as chief executive that year. He wasn't an engineer, he was the first non-engineer to run the company, but he was a brilliant operator who understood Intel's machine better than almost anyone. And that machine was built on one idea: enormous margins. Intel didn't just sell chips. It sold the highest margin chips in the business, protected by a manufacturing lead no rival could touch. That was the strength. It would also become the trap. Around 2005, before the iPhone was announced, Apple came to Intel with a request. They wanted a chip for a new mobile device, and they wanted to pay a specific price for it. Here's the problem, in Otellini's own telling. The price Apple wanted to pay was below Intel's forecasted cost to make the chip. To Intel, the math didn't work. This wasn't a high-margin server processor. It was a cheap chip for an unproven gadget, sold at a price that lost money on paper. It wasn't one of these things you can make up on volume, Otellini said. So Intel passed, and on the surface, it was a rational call. This was before anyone had held an iPhone. No one knew it would sell. Intel's entire culture was built on protecting margins. By that logic, saying yes to a cheap, low-margin chip for a phone that might flop was exactly the kind of discipline that had made Intel great. But that's the thing about a moat. The same wall that keeps enemies out can keep you locked inside. Apple didn't need Intel. They went with a chip built on a different architecture, ARM, and had it manufactured elsewhere. The original iPhone shipped in 2007 on an ARM-based processor, and then it didn't flop. It became the best-selling product in the history of consumer technology. Every iPhone after it ran on ARM. So did every Android phone. An entire new computing platform, billions of devices was being built, and Intel wasn't in a single one of them. The architecture Intel had dismissed was now the standard for the fastest-growing market in tech. Intel saw the mistake and tried to fix it, hard. It poured money into its own mobile chip, the Atom. But it was years late, and ARM had already won. So Intel did something almost unheard of. It started paying phone makers to use its chips, a strategy it called contra revenue. Intel was literally subsidizing companies to take its processors. The numbers were brutal. In 2014, Intel's mobile division posted an operating loss of around $4.2 billion. In 2015, the contra revenue push burned roughly another $4 billion. And after all of it, Intel held about 1% of the smartphone market, 1%. By 2016, Intel pulled the plug on its phone chips entirely. It made one last pivot, supplying the modems inside iPhones, and even that ended in 2019 when Intel sold its modem business to Apple for about $1 billion. Look at the scoreboard. The iPhone alone has generated well over $1 trillion in revenue for Apple. ARM-based chips power nearly every smartphone alive, and the company that designs Apple's chips today, Apple itself, builds processors so good they eventually replaced Intel inside the Mac too. The miss didn't just cost Intel Mobile, it trained Intel's most important customer to never depend on Intel again. Otellini said it plainly before he stepped down in 2013. The forecasted cost was wrong, and the volume turned out to be 100 times what anyone expected. The spreadsheet that said no was simply wrong, and he knew it. So many times in my career, I've ended up making decisions with my gut, he said, and I should have followed my gut. So here's the lesson, and it's not that Intel was dumb. Intel was disciplined. That was the problem. The exact thing that built the empire, protect the margin, trust the model, don't chase low-value business, is what blinded it to the biggest platform shift of its lifetime. When your whole identity is built in a number, you'll defend that number right up until the moment it sinks you. The most dangerous decisions aren't the reckless ones. They're the perfectly reasonable ones. the ones that look right on every slide in the room. Intel said no to protect a margin and lost a market. Next time, we look at a company that said yes to everything and grew so fast it nearly destroyed itself. If you want the decision that breaks the next empire, subscribe to Downfall Theory.